Welcome, my Blender head colleagues. I am Salvador García Luque, and today I present the proxies for video editing and the audio waveforms to display on the audio strips. As you can see, we are already in our video editing window settings. Now, we are going to add the clips that we are going to be working with in this tutorial. Let's drag them. We drag this one. We wait for it to load. And, well, I want you to notice something. A moment ago, we had 24 frames per second. Now we have 25. This is because, well, in all Blender goodness, as usual, Blender has made an effort to adjust a bit, auto-detecting the settings of the video clip, adjusting to the frames this one comes with, to the number of frames per second, since if it didn't do it, we could suffer from getting parts out of sync. As you can see, if I change the frame rate, the audio strip readjusts and changes. It is no longer exactly the same size as the video clip. So as you can tell, if we make a frame rate change, it's very likely that we end up just getting things out of sync. So you have to try to keep the same frame rate. We add the rest of the clips by dragging them. We delete our audio clips that the video files come with. We add the audio file, and as you know, to delete we press X or delete. Let's hide this. Let's mute it with the H key, because at the moment we don't want to hear the audio that we are going to use in this tutorial. We just want to have it ready somewhere in the editor. We are going to drag the other clips with the G key and we are going to put them somewhere. We are going to move this for a moment and we are going to remove these gaps. There are several ways. One of them is to press G and X to drag horizontally, exceed it until a red box appears, and well, when we let go, it rearranges right where the strip ends. But we have another option. If we go to Strip, Transform, we will find Remove Gaps. With the backspace or this button above Intro or Enter on our keyboard, also known as Return or Return, we press this button and see that the first hole has disappeared, and even drag the other two clips we have here. Well, this floating menu appears where it gives us the option to put them all together. Or we can simply repeat the process as many times we need. Well, we have already adjusted this. Now I want to adjust the rendering range. For this, I have selected the three clips, the three strips, and I need to go to the View menu. And from there to the menu range where this option appears at the end, which says Set Frame Range to Strips. The selected strips. And voila! Just like that, we have quickly adjusted how much the video's length will be and how many frames it'll render. Okay, now we can move to the proxies. What is a proxy? A proxy is basically a placeholder or an object that is going to take a place temporarily. It's basically like when you ask someone to save your place in line. Okay, well, that person is your proxy, is your placeholder, because it's there supplanting you for a moment until you come back and take your place in line. Well, the proxies are the same. We can find the proxies in Blender, in here, in the output, and also in the rigs. In the rigs, it serves to be working on the complete rig, that is, the character's animation controls, and the character model in another file, so you can already work on the animation. The proxy is showing a placeholder or a supplanter of what the model is going to be, but you can already animate it. Well, the same goes for the proxies here in the video editing. However, here it is a bit more interactive. This is what it's going to do. Its main use is that we can preview the video, being that, as you can see, I'm traversing the timeline and it takes a lot of work for the program. It is a lot of effort for Blender to keep up with the cursor. This then makes the job practically impossible, especially when we work with videos of a fairly high resolution. So, well, the solution is to add a proxy that has a much smaller size and a greater compression. So, when we are working, we use the proxy with lower quality. But at the time of rendering this video, of this editing, the video comes out in full quality. So it's perfect. We don't need anything else. We don't need to change it, remove it, or anything. Automatically Blender takes the original video for when rendering is done, but in the rest of the time we work with the proxy. Okay, let's make these proxies. For this, we go to the sidebar, we select the proxy and Cache tab. From there, we go to the last section, strip proxy and timecode. We select a strip first, in this case this one. We activate it. When we do this, the settings that can be adjusted to each strip appear. The first two options we have there are to select a specific custom directory or a custom file, so that if we already had a proxy cache generated from another project or another file, we can simply use that proxy cache without having to generate a new one. That's what these two options are for. Below we have the percentage we want. That I took from the original. We can choose the 100% of the resolution size, 1920 times 1080 in this case, or just 75 or 25%, 50 of the original size. Just like we would with this bar when we render images or video. Below we have the option to overdrive or overwrite, so be careful. If we have already generated our proxy and we want to generate a new one without losing the last one, we have to disable this. Here we have the compression setting. In addition to reducing the size, we can also reduce the resolution or image quality with the JPG image compressor. We can leave it at 20, but we can, again, reduce it. Below, finally, we have the timecode index. What are these? These are basically marks that we can use in video players and elsewhere. What it's going to do here is to not make a timecode or mark for each frame. This way it skips more frames, making the file lighter and easier to be able to reproduce it and make it much easier to play. However, it does not affect as much, so we can now leave all these settings as they are, especially the percentage, because 1920 times 1080 is quite large. So at 25, well, they turn out well enough for us to work. So we'll leave them like this, and we are headed for the section above, proxy settings. Here we have three options. The first is the storage drop-down menu with two options, per strip and project. Per strip will generate a proxy for each video strip that we have, while project will take it all, and it's going to put it in a single folder. This is very good if you know that you are going to use these clips. Like this will be the case because I'm going to use them for other tutorial videos. I want these strips to each have their own proxy, since I'm going to use some of them, or in a different way, or things like that. So per strip is the option that I will use. But if I know that I won't use them again, well, I can leave it in project, since it will not be necessary for me to do separations by video clip. The next option we have is selected strip proxies to adjust. The selected proxy strips. Basically, the percentage and the overdrive that we have already seen. And finally, we have the button that will generate the proxy. Rebuild proxy and timecode indices. We select the strip that we are going to be using. We make sure it is activated, and now we press rebuild. Having done this, it'll start making the video clips proxy. It literally says it's building it. The proxy, since we didn't give it a specific path, it'll appear right where the selected strips clip is located. Generate this BL underscore proxy folder and another folder inside with the name of our video clip. And inside it, the necessary files to load this clip or this proxy. Since we have generated the proxy, well, let's continue with the other two. After we finish, we will be back. Now that we have made the proxies, we'll see that we still can't wander as well as we would like in the timeline. This is because we still lack a little thing to do, and is to set all of this in the preview here. So, well, let's pull out the preview sidebar. Let's activate the View tab, and in the View Settings section, we are going to modify the proxy render size, or the proxy rendering size, to be more correct. We open this drop-down menu and go to the proxy size 25%. what is exactly the size of the proxy that we have activated. And as you can see, now the video plays perfectly. The timeline follows the cursor in real time, doesn't lags behind it, Blender doesn't freezes, and we still see how it runs well perfectly. You may notice one thing that appears down here. Those who have done video editing before will know that, as well as in Premiere, After Effects, or other video editing programs, when you scroll the timeline with the cursor, you do all this, these chunks begin to appear. They are normally green in other programs, but in Blender are red. These are pre-renderings of what we are previewing. Although we have made a proxy and so on, Blender is generating a render that is temporary. In other programs, this is a bit more stable. In Premiere, you can directly generate this render, and after you generate the render, the entire clip can be repositioned just as easily, regardless of the length. In other words, you wouldn't need a proxy in that case. However, in Blender, it was decided to generate these proxies to do the work of being able to quickly go through our video. Why? Because in Blender, this is a little bit more volatile. In Premiere, we can move these clips, and what we have here stays at this, except when you blend them with others. But as you can see here in Blender, by moving, it instantly disappears this preview render, making this pre-rendering somewhat useless, since we can perfectly see the video when we are playing it at 25 frames per second. So the radius is pretty good. The rate, I mean. And there you have it. As far as proxies go, this is all we need to do. Now let's take a look at the audio waveforms. Select the audio clip. Let's put it here at the beginning with Shift S or snapping. Here it is. And we are going to show it with Alt H or right click, lock, mute. Here we have it. Alt H on mute strips. We go to the strip tab and activate it simply by clicking the waveform display checkbox. And there it is. We now have our audio waveform drawn. And now, when you press the spacebar or the play button, we will listen to the audio. There you have it. It is an audio of a waterfall for this example. Very well, let's stop the audio. It'll be best to mute it now. In this way, we conclude with the video referring to proxies and audio waveforms in video editing. What remains is, as always, to ask you to please subscribe, hit the bell, and give thumbs up to the video. I am Salvador García Luque. I hope to see you in the next video. See you later.